Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Market Update, where we discuss leading financial and economic developments in Europe, Asia, and North America. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. And first up, JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon has issued a stark warning to European leaders, declaring that the continent is, quote, losing, end quote, the global competitive race to the United States and China. Speaking at an event in Dublin, hosted by Ireland's Foreign Ministry, Dimon highlighted the EU's economic decline relative to the US. Quote, Europe has gone from 90% of US GDP to 65% in over 10 or 15 years. That's not good. You are losing, end quote, he said. Dimon's remarks underscore the growing concerns over Europe's sluggish growth, rigid regulatory environment, and fragmented financial systems. His comments add to mounting pressure on European policymakers who are already navigating rising geopolitical and economic headwinds, not least the threat of renewed trade war with the United States, which we'll cover momentarily. Dimon also sounded the alarm on investor complacency regarding US President Donald Trump's escalating tariff threats. Quote, unfortunately, I think there is complacency in the market, end quote, he said, pointing to muted reactions to Trump's proposed 50% tariff on copper and 200% tariffs on pharmaceuticals, tariffs which will particularly hit the country which he made these comments in, Ireland, quite hard. The sweeping levies on key US allies include Japan and South Korea. The warning comes as the European Union scrambles to avert a tit-for-tat escalation after Trump announced plans to impose 30% tariffs on EU exports starting the 1st of August. In response, the European Commission has suspended its own planned tariffs on 21 billion euros worth of US goods, including chickens, motorcycles, and clothing, originally scheduled to take effect on the 15th of July. Tomorrow. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the delay was a gesture of goodwill to allow time for negotiators. Quote, we've always been clear that we prefer a negotiated solution with the US. This remains the case, end quote, she stated on Sunday. Yesterday. The EU leaders remain divided over strategy, however. Some advocate a fast-track framework agreement similar to the UK's recent deal with Washington. Others argue that holding out could yield a better outcome. One senior EU official suggested Trump's threats are a negotiating tactic, pointing to potential backlash from US investors if tariffs are imposed on a major trading partner. Quote, we must trust in the markets, end quote, one official reportedly said. A cynical commentator might jest that it's very unlike EU regulators to trust in the market. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz expressed cautious optimism for a deal, revealing that he has spoken with von der Leyen, French President Macron, and Trump. Quote, negotiations were already fairly advanced, end quote, he said on Sunday, yesterday, citing precedents with Canada and China, where threats ultimately lead to compromise. Still, pressure is mounting from EU member states and domestic constituencies. Italian Deputy Prime Minister Salvini criticized Brussels' handling of the talks, accusing the Commission of allowing a, quote, German-led Europe, end quote, to put Italy's economy at risk. Italy's powerful agricultural association warned the proposed 30% tariffs could cause 2.3 billion euros in direct damage to Italy's food exporters. Despite criticism, von der Leyen is pressing ahead with a diversification strategy. On Sunday, she announced a political agreement on a free trade deal with Indonesia after 9 years of talks. The officials hope the pact, which covers 27.3 billion euros in bilateral trade, will help reduce reliance on US trade ties. Italian Prime Minister Meloni struck a more conciliatory tone, expressing, quote, a trade war within the West would weaken all of us in the face of global challenges we confront today, end quote, she said, adding that the EU has the strength, quote, to secure a fair and sensible agreement, end quote. As the August 1st deadline approaches, Europe finds it is in quite the balancing act, with de-escalation on the one hand and defense on the other. Next up, Taiwan's central bank has issued a rare warning to foreign investors amid concerns over speculative capital flows contributing to a rapid appreciation of the new Taiwan dollar. The move comes as authorities attempt to stabilize the currency without triggering a formal currency manipulation label from the United States. In a statement made to the UK-based Financial Times over the weekend, the Central Bank of the Republic of China, the official title of Taiwan, said it had, quote, strengthened communication with a few foreign investors, end quote, and urged them to, quote, self-regulate and make necessary improvements, end quote. The bank accused unnamed investors of converting capital into Taiwan dollars without using it for investment in domestic securities, an apparent violation of capital control rules. The Taiwan dollar has surged more than 10% this year, including a dramatic 9% spike over just 3 days in May. The rally, driven by exporters repatriating assets and life insurers hedging against a weakening US dollar, has raised concerns about the competitiveness of Taiwan's export-heavy economy. Exports reached a record $475 billion in 2024, comprising about 60% of GDP, double the global average. Authorities have their own balancing trick now, managing currency appreciation without resorting to large-scale interventions that could place Taiwan in violation of US Treasury guidelines on currency manipulation. Taiwan already appears on Washington's monitoring list, and further action could elevate its risk of being designated a full manipulator. To ease appreciation pressures, the central bank has begun closing regulatory loopholes and cracking down on speculative trades, although Taiwan maintains that it has, quote, effectively no foreign exchange restrictions, end quote. It does require foreign capital inflows to be used for investments within Taiwan. Violations can result in limited access to Taiwan's markets, analysts say, giving the central bank informal leverage. Brad Setster, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, observed, quote, you can't effectively operate in Taiwan if you don't have a healthy relationship with the central bank, end quote. While some of the currency pressure is attributed to speculative flows, analysts agree the appreciation also reflects deeper structural trends in Asia's foreign exchange markets. Indeed, some warn of a reckoning across the wider Asia area in the coming months. Now, if you want to be on top of the most up-to-date analysis on the biggest developments in the world's biggest markets, consider subscribing to Market Update. Hit the bell notification icon and you will be. And if you're getting some value from today's episode of Market Update, don't forget to hit the like button. And finally for today, the Canadian government has launched a sweeping spending review that could result in significant public sector job losses as Prime Minister Mark Carney seeks to rein in a ballooning federal deficit. In a series of internal memos sent last week, senior officials across multiple departments warned employees of potential layoffs and program reductions as part of a push to reduce operational costs by as much as 15% by the 2028 through 29 fiscal year. Employment and Social Development Canada, ESDC, a department responsible for unemployment insurance, labour laws and job training programs, informed its 36,000 employees that, quote, adjustments to our workforce may be necessary, end quote, citing the scope of required reductions. The memo emphasised the need to target underperforming programs and activities in order to reduce day-to-day government expenditures. Global Affairs Canada echoed a similar tone in a separate memo, forecasting potential cuts of 1.1 billion Canadian, $804 billion by 2029. Quote, this review will require difficult decisions affecting our workforce, end quote, it stated. Indigenous Services Canada also notified staff that the ongoing review would affect both programs and personnel. These warnings come on the heels of the Finance Minister's directive earlier last week instructing cabinet ministers to identify billions in savings. The initiative aims to offset growing defence, infrastructure and capital project spending while delivering on campaign promises to prioritise housing and productivity-enhancing investments. The Public Service Alliance of Canada, the country's largest public sector union, criticised the move, unsurprisingly, as a return to austerity. Quote, these planning spending reviews look and feel like austerity, end quote, the union said in a statement on Tuesday. The cost-cutting drive occurs amid conflicting signals in Canada's broader labour market. Statistics Canada reported over the weekend that the country added 83,100 jobs in June, the highest monthly increase in 6 months, causing the unemployment rate to unexpectedly dip to 6.9%. However, 84% of those gains were in part-time positions, and over one-fifth of the unemployed have been job hunting for more than 6 months. So while it does look good from afar, the devil is very much in the details, and these details are concerning. And of course, 6.9% is also quite high for an unemployment rate. While job growth suggests some resilience, analysts warn that underlying pressures remain. Year-to-date, Canada added just 143,800 jobs, the slowest first-half pace since 2018, excluding the pandemic. Moreover, wage growth for permanent employees slowed to 3.2%, undershooting economists' expectations of 3.5% growth. The labour market's mixed signals complicate the Bank of Canada's policy outlook. The central bank has held interest rates steady at 2.75% for 2 consecutive meetings, and economists say June's job data likely diminishes the case for a rate cut at the next policy meeting on the 30th of July. Still, the outlook is clouded by mounting trade tensions. Last Thursday, US President Donald Trump announced a sweeping 35% tariff on Canadian imports starting the 1st of August, intensifying pressure on key sectors already hit by steel, aluminium and auto tariffs. In Windsor, Ontario, Canada's automotive hub, unemployment has surged to 11.2%, the highest among major metropolitan areas. As Ottawa seeks to curb spending and investors brace for external shocks, the fate of thousands of public sector jobs and the durability of Canada's wider economic recovery remain deeply uncertain. Okay, that is today's episode of Market Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Monday. Have a productive week, and I will see you for a new update tomorrow.